Welcome to another episode of It's All Trash, a podcast diving into the trash world of education. My name is Sabrina Alicia, and I am a lifelong educator. Today, I'm joined by Mario Mena, one of the most talented, amazing, wonderful, kind artists I've ever met in my life. How are you feeling today, Mario?
I'm feeling pretty good.
Good.
Sundays are one of my favorite days.
Okay.
So good. Getting excited to hopefully get some work later and then be on the show.
Nice, beautiful. Thank you for joining us. So I don't know if your teachers ever did this with you in the classroom, but we are going to do a little SEL, social emotional learning check-in. We do it every class. So we are going to do a rose and a thorn. So a rose is like something that's going really, really well for you, and a thorn is something that's got, like a little thorn in your side. It doesn't have to be the worst thing that's happening in the world, but just a little rose and a thorn check-in. So what are you bringing with you today?
Rose, like the rose is the metaphor, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I've been working with Yolocalli this summer. So that's my rose for the summer, amongst so many other things. So working with youth through ASM, it's my first time. So it's just figuring it out. So
Yeah.
to me, I feel very proud of these kids, and I feel like they're growing on me. So that's my rose.
Have you worked with kids before, like taught classes like this?
I did a very impromptu last minute one at Gage Park High School this for their spring semester.
Okay.
But it was so never supportive staff of the school.
Okay.
It was basically get in there, do whatever. Nobody really checked in. The principal only checked in at the end when she wanted to keep their work
Right.
for school, and I was like, I had them decide,
Yeah.
and they said no. So it was like a heavy advocate for between me and the principal. But it was very not like this, not like at Yolocalli. It's different. Yeah, it was very difficult, to be honest. I wanted, like, half the time I was in the car right before, like, do I really want to do this?
Yeah.
I just
It
didn't
sucks
feel
when it's like that.
everything around me.
Yeah. But now you feel better with this Yolocalli ASM partnership.
I'm like, oh, I could do this every fall, spring, summer,
Nice. That's beautiful. What's your thorn right now? What are you feeling these days?
Time management.
Yeah. You're busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good problem, but holy man, like, I know what I'm doing, but I lack structure, so it could be very, a lot of anxiety, Everything's all over. Everything's a mess in here. Everything's all over the place, bouncing around. So, whatever's coming up next, like, I grab it, pay attention to it, then let it go, and then I need to, like, create a file cabinet, like in my brain,
Yeah. Google, do you use the Google Calendar?
Yeah, that's one of my new favorite tools.
Yeah, I used to, when I was in grad school, I used to use like paper ones, and I was so big on having like a paper calendar. And then I used to even have like, I would tape little Post-its in it and all this stuff. And I remember one of my classmates was like, yeah, I used to do that before I discovered the Google Calendar. And I was like, okay, whatever, you're obviously smarter and better than me. Like I was really challenged by it. And then I learned the Google Calendar, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I got to like color code things and the timers and the notifications. It's really, really helpful to do that. Yeah.
I really like that. And then when I'm working with somebody, I'll be like, hey, can you do a Google Calendar thing?
Yeah.
Because if we're talking about it sometimes, I'm just like, just send it. I'm already checked out right now. Like, I know we're going to do something. And then
if it's not on
reminder.
the calendar, if it's not on the calendar, it's not happening.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or I'm gonna be like, oh, I forgot. Let me shuffle some things around. I'm better prepared for you.
Right. Absolutely. Well, thank you for sharing that. My rose and thorn. I don't really have a lot of thorns, which is fantastic because, like, I've shared on the podcast recently that I, like, last few weeks, I was like, I am wanting more peace. I want to be, like, calm again. Like, I love having just, like, contentment day to day being very peaceful and nice. And I've got it. Like, that's been coming back to me more recently, which is really cool. When I was in Puerto Rico with my family, my dad convinced me to buy a Nintendo Switch. And was like, you'll enjoy it. I haven't played games in years. Like, I hadn't done it. But my dad and I used to play games when I was younger. So I was like, fine, whatever. And I bought it. And then more recently, my boyfriend got, Nico got the Breath of the Wild game from Zelda. Have you ever played that game?
No.
It's like it's a Zelda game, but it's like it's I think at this point for the Switch it's like 4 years old, and
Oh.
he got it like off of OfferUp or something like that, and we have just been having a blast, and we finished it last night. So that was a lot of fun because there's like you could you challenge like the big bosses, and he's good at that part. But then in this game, you go into these shrines and there's little puzzles, and then that's the part that I like to do. And there's little side quests. So
So you switch off. That's pretty
yeah,
cute.
we were
That's
switching
pretty
off.
cute.
Yeah, it was fun. So we finished it, and so I was having a good time because I was like, good. I needed like dumb stuff like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You don't just always want to be like working and working. So, Thorn though, can't really think of anything honestly. Everything has been pretty okay. I guess recently in my job, I thought that my 401k was coming out of my paycheck, and it wasn't. And so my boss was like, you can retroactively add it. And I was like, you mean add all that money? Like, I thought it was
Back.
already in there.
How
Yeah.
long has it been since you started it?
Oh my God. Well, I started my job in March, and then I thought I set up the 401k around like the second paycheck. And then but it wasn't set up, and it just got set up like literally the last paycheck. So at least April, May, June, at least 3 months. So that's like,
Is it a
6
good
paychecks.
Is it a good percentage? Like
Yeah, it's a big chunk. Well, I was attempting, this is like getting into the meat and potatoes of it all, but I learned that you can max out your 401k at like something like $20,000 for the year. So because I started my job more into the year, not March instead of January, I obviously wasn't going to be able to contribute since then. So I was like, maybe I can get close to maxing that amount out. But you have your bills and life and like all other sorts of things. Like, it's nice to have more liquid cash. So I'm not going to max out. I'm not even going to get anywhere close to maxing it out. But I was trying, I was attempting that.
do they match you like a
Yeah,
percentage?
it's at a 4% match.
Okay.
So, I'm missing out on that too. And they were like, you can add it back in and get the 4% match. I'm like, I got to figure some things out first because that's a big chunk, as opposed to taking the smaller amounts out.
Yeah,
so.
exactly.
Yeah, so that was my thorn, but it got resolved. It got fixed, so I'll be okay. Okay. You ready to get into a little game, Mario?
Yes.
Okay. We I feel like the games I pick are they get a little tricky for some folks. So I'm gonna
even when you were talking about Zelda, it reminded me of the first time I ever played the original one.
I used to play that with my dad.
It was on the Cube.
Yeah, the GameCube.
Right? GameCube.
Oh, I played on the N64.
Okay, I remember that one too. But I
Yeah.
remember the N64, the controllers, they were so bulky, so retro.
Yeah.
And then it had the clear controllers, but I remember the first time playing it, it was my first time being exposed to a role-playing game, RPG.
Yeah.
And I thought it was phenomenal, so magical. So
Yeah.
for an artist, right, like at that age, even if you don't consider yourself an artist at that time or are aware of it, just stuff like that, like exists in the world, and then, like being Mexican or like Latino, and like your parents not affording something, it would be my cousins. So every time I would go over there, it was like, can we play? Can we play? Can we play?
Yeah.
But I like games, yeah.
Yeah. Well, this one's a little bit different. It's not as nearly as cool, but I think you'll enjoy it. So the game that we're going to play together is called Describe the Art Style. Okay, so we're going to tap into your creativity, and I'm going to give you some public figures, okay?
Okay.
And what you need to do is describe their art style. And so we're going to do a little bit of artist stereotyping here. You ready?
Yeah, that's it. I'm like, I wonder who's going to watch this because I'm about to...
You're
Whatever.
gonna be it'll be fun. It's all in good fun. I mean, people
Okay.
we all know the roles we play. Let's not
I just start talking
pretend.
shit.
Yeah, exactly. Which is why I'm gonna give you an easy one to begin. You ready?
Okay.
Okay, the first person you're gonna describe, if they were an artist, what would their art style be? And it is the Pope.
Oh my God.
What would he do?
So I don't know if they're like try to be more progressive the last few years, whatever.
Okay.
He would have to do super raunchy art.
Whoa. Wait.
It's like
You think the art would do or the Pope would do super raunchy art?
I don't think he would, but I would love to see it.
Okay.
Because it's like he's suppressing all this like sensuality, this sin. So his alter ego would be like this super explicit artist.
Oh, I like this. So it's. Do you want this artist? We're gonna get really meta and deep. Do you want the Pope in this circumstance to be like have a secret alternate life where he maybe has like I don't know a Tumblr with his raunchy art?
A Tumblr, all like modern, like white girl. Like,
He's like sitting in the back of the Vatican, just like
trying to hide his IP address and stuff.
yeah.
Like,
Wow.
yeah, and it's because of the suppression and repression of his whole life. That would be his alter ego, and maybe he would like dress up, or like maybe he's like a what do you call a king?
Okay.
Like what is it, like cross dressing or
Drag queen?
Drag queen or drag
Wow.
king, you know?
Okay. Okay.
And that's his art form, and he goes out dancing to 80s music at night.
Oh my God, I love this. I actually, now this reminds me that I think there's a show on HBO with Jude Law that is about the Pope. And I never watched it, and
me
I
too.
want to watch it because I think it's supposed to be. Now I really want to put that back on my list. Okay, next person. Abraham Lincoln. What's his art style?
See, like what era was that? What time was he? 1900s? Really?
Like Civil War and all that.
Civil War, yeah. Well, like, I always thought of him as Abraham Lincoln, right? Because he freed the slaves, but he didn't for...
He didn't. Yeah.
I mean, he didn't do it for the good cause, right?
Yeah.
I think he would be like some bougie, like, colonial attitude. Maybe, like, not art, but at least his demeanor would probably be very... I don't think I would like it.
You wouldn't like it? It'd be like stuffy art.
It would be too Americana.
Okay.
Like, I like Americana art. Like the retro, like hand-painted stuff.
Yeah.
Trains and stuff like that.
I could definitely see Abraham Lincoln just sitting in his study painting like a train, being like so modern. Wow.
With his hands being super American with the deep voice and like... I think it would be all right, but I think I would get bored.
You get bored, yeah. He does seem kind of boring. It's funny you say that because we learned in school how he's like this big hero, and then we get older, and like now people are more progressive with conversations about him, and it's like, oh, you were just an opportunist. Okay,
Yeah.
Good to know. Good to know.
Which I can't get mad at him for doing that, right? Like, it worked for him in his political career. He had to do something. It was smart, but you said opportunist. So like,
Yeah, definitely an opportunist. So we're not buying his art.
yeah, and whatever he did, it's just like, I'm not gonna hate on it. You do
Right.
you, but I'm gonna keep moving on.
Okay. All right. Next person, J-Lo.
Damn.
What kind of artist is J-Lo?
Well, I mean, she's already an artist. So what other?
Oh, she has to be a visual artist. I'm sorry. What type
Visuals.
of pieces would she create?
She would like put paint on her butt and like sit on the canvas. No, just,
And send it to the Pope.
they would do a collaboration show together.
Oh my God. I picture J-Lo if she didn't get into the career that she did and she wanted to go into art, like she would definitely do graffiti first because she would think that that's the thing she's supposed to do, not because she's any good at it.
I think she would be very like plants and tropical art. Kind of like basic,
Okay.
but really pretty.
Okay.
Like kind of. I think she would be like open enough to see the joy of painting and just flowing, and maybe not even taking it too seriously. I think it would be like a hobby.
Okay, you give her a lot more credit than I did because I'm like, she's a fake and a phony in the art world for me. But to you,
I don't know anything other than like her big butt and then she sings.
Wow,
And she's really pretty too, though.
She is gorgeous. You have to watch, well, I don't know if you have to or you want to, but the documentary on her was really good, and I actually respect her more after that documentary than I used to. And she talks about the butt thing where she was like, we all see it and think like where everybody's like, oh yeah, you're just like known for this butt. But she was like, people were just constantly talking about my body. That doesn't feel good, And I'm like,
No,
wow,
yeah.
I never thought of it like that. It humanized her.
Yeah, and I just said that trying to be funny. All these
I know.
I'm gonna get these people sending me messages like
No,
objectifying woman, this Latina woman who has done so
No.
much for us.
No. Don't even worry about it. She was saying how in the media that was just like the thing. Like it was normalized, you know?
Yeah, so I could, because of that, I feel like she would need an escape from all that, and she would just like do very like floral jungle kind of stuff like me, but
Okay.
more basic.
Wow, a J-Lo and Mario Mena collaboration on florals. I see it.
I'm gonna start tagging her in my post.
You should. I see it happening. Okay, next, Mother Teresa.
Oh,
What would she draw?
she would be a tattoo artist,
Ooh, I like that.
but like the old ones with
The point and stick
yeah,
ones.
because it would have to be so like, I feel like there's an honor, right? Some honor to the procedure of getting tattooed like that, and her work, what she would say.
Okay.
It would just fall into like this more mysticism, you know. So I think I would see her that like you would have to earn her work
Yeah.
being tattooed on you.
Yeah, it's like a spiritual experience to get tattooed by Mother Teresa.
Yeah, right. Wouldn't you want it to be that way? Like if it was Mother Teresa.
Absolutely, absolutely. Beautiful. Okay, Chef Gordan Ramsey.
I don't know if he's an ass. No, he's an asshole because he's a chef.
Yeah, he's the one that yells all the time.
Because he's a chef. I'm like, how much of this is a front? Like, but I worked in the food industry, very toxic, horrible, hospitality. Everybody's an asshole like that. Because of that, and he would have so much aggression and so much shit to let out, I think he would probably be the best one painter out of all of them.
Wow. Okay.
Expressionist, maybe more like Expressionism, Van Gogh, Monet, just like, oh, I'm so mad. I'm so rich and like my fucking escargots didn't come out good. Like first world problems, you know.
Yeah.
But he would be like a Picasso. He would be an asshole. Everybody loved his work, but he was actually a fucking asshole.
Okay.
Like I think a lot of people hated him.
Yeah.
So I think yeah, he would be like a Picasso. Like
Okay.
I kind of hated that he would be like a Picasso.
Right. But he would make beautiful work like you love to hate. You hate to love it type of thing too. You hate to love him.
And I think great work creates a reaction. If it's love or hate, doesn't matter. I still respect that. Like if you made me like I hate this shit, but I'm already thinking about it. I'm already engaged in how much I hate it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah. It's still a reaction. Yeah.
I'd be like, I'm a hate on it quietly. But
while also respecting it.
Yeah, like, you know, I don't have to like everything. Doesn't mean that it's not good, you know.
Yeah. Okay. All right. How about Obama? What kind of art would Obama do?
See, like, I really want to like Obama all the time. He's a very likable figure. First black president. I feel cool that I was alive during that time.
Yeah. It's historic, no matter what.
No matter what, yeah. But he's still a politician.
He did bad things in office, too.
Yeah, like everybody else.
That's why I don't want Michelle to run. I'm going to be very honest, because I'm like,
You're gonna ruin.
She has to do bad things. Yeah, and then it ruins the essence of that person for us.
And then you just don't care again. You're constantly let down. It's like the Chicago Bears, you know?
Oh, sad.
Like, I can't watch them more. You're going to break my heart every time.
Yeah.
Oh. Like, I want to say, like, you know, this, like, Afrofuturism art that's in right now.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe, like, more along the lines of, like, Lisa Butler.
Okay.
I think he would definitely, he's entitled to, like, really use his culture, like, a lot of, like, fabric patterns, colors, you know. I think he would do the whole Hyde Park. He's from over there, like, kind of take advantage, opportunists too, like, because of his platform. Oh, I just need to do black art, you know, like. Okay. I was trying to impersonate how he talks. But yeah, I think he would be in a gallery that's too expensive for most people of Chicago.
Okay.
More expensive to go and the events than, like, the kids that would be into his art, you know?
Right.
Like, inaccessible.
Inaccessible.
But then he would want to make it accessible through his Obama Foundation, you know? Like,
okay.
he would just play the game. He's a politician.
That sounds key. Yeah. Make parts of it inaccessible, but then make it accessible through your foundation. Wow, that's very political.
You're like, it's a puppet thing. You're making it seem like you're plotting or fabricating the situation. That's
Okay.
so politics. I don't know if you saw House of Cards. Fuck that actor. The
Yeah,
show was really
some of it I saw.
the
Yeah, yeah.
show was really good, and it really put into perspective like how everything is planned, even the things that you don't think.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would be something like that, you know.
Okay. Very cool. All right, the last person is
Yeah. Okay.
this is gonna get a little close to home. If your parents were artists, what type of art would they do?
Damn, that's really fucking hard.
Is it deep? Is this like therapy now?
No. Right? Like you would think so. If my parents were artists. So my mom, oh yeah, does it have to be visual artist?
Yeah,
Okay.
that's the game.
So growing up, my mom in Mexico, she was, you know, the mariachi, the girls with their big dresses,
Yeah.
like dancer.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to think, probably something very colorful patterns. I don't know. It's really hard.
When what you're describing, just even the few words, but knowing the background of all of that, it reminds me of the artist Jackie Arte. Do you follow her work
Yeah,
like
check
that?
that.
Yeah, so very like traditionally Chicana inspired, the bright colors, thinking of like alebrijes, that
Yeah,
visuals like that.
I think that would be for my mom.
Okay.
She came from more of like, you know, she went to like high school and stuff and everything. So I feel like she would have the initial skill and understanding for it, especially because she did music or dancing. With my dad, I think my dad would be a sculptor. He likes to use his hands.
Okay.
You know, he came over here, migrant worker,
Yeah.
blue collar worker. All he's ever known is to work and use his hands and body. You know, work in a warehouse for
Yeah.
15, 20 years. So, so I think for him something technical would be difficult. So I think work with his hands, so sculptor. You know.
That's beautiful, man. You really like expanded the thoughts that I had on where this game would go. So I'm
Oh.
really happy. Yeah, no, I'm really happy with all of the responses that you gave. And I didn't even think of this before I started the game, but I posted the other day. Someone else had posted this like kind of like TikTok meme whatever thing, and it said how you notice that rich kids when they don't worry about their finances, when they don't worry about things, they all choose
Surviving.
art. Yeah, they don't
Surviving.
worry about surviving, so they choose art. And then it was like everyone is an artist until the rent is due.
Yeah.
You know, and the ways that we all like embrace that. And you know, with a lot of the stuff that happens with Somos Arte, with my organization, that's what we're trying to do is like embrace the artists and everybody, get everyone to be appreciators of art in different ways. So you bringing it back to your parents and talking about what they would do like that is really, really, really cool.
Yeah, because I'm trying to see like beyond them surviving and like working, like what's their personality like? What little things do they really enjoy?
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking something like that. You know, like I'm trying to be very considerate of their personality, right?
Yeah. Well, it makes sense to me. I mean, in my own creative journey, like I am the type of person that can like if I look at someone's piece, I can maybe sketch out like what the characters, you know, like I can look at like a Mickey Mouse and I could draw the Mickey Mouse. I could do little things like that. But the way that I found like sort of like creativity and looseness with the resin art that I do, you know, kind of aligned to maybe like you talking about your dad with the sculpting. I didn't used to think it was art and I didn't used to think it was creativity until like other people encouraged me and they were like, no, 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 that's art. That's creativity. It's definitely, it's fluid art. It's just different than, you know, visual drawing like that.
And it's still visual and it's still painting. It's just a different version of it. When I think about art in general, like even parallels between music, visual art, sculpting, it's just a different tip of the brush.
Yeah.
You know, you do different. It's a different tool. As an artist, you're just collecting tools and skills or tools for your toolbox, and then you just bring them out for the right job. You know what I mean? Like so, for me, another metaphor is like the brush tip is different. It's a spray cap now. You know, like so I see the parallels between everything now. and it's everything's just a metaphor for like, I don't know. It's just like nothing is so different. Everything is art, and I'm just
Yeah.
seeing it. I not so much. I always understood it, but now I can define it better. I feel.
Okay. Yeah, you have the words for it a little bit differently. That's really, really beautiful.
And I
Well,
like to
thank you.
let
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
people know that you are an artist. You know, even if you're not an artist like me. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Well, I think it's cool to be part of why I share with even doing resin is like so that others can see it's okay to explore something that's new, that's different, that's creative, that's fun, even if you don't think you're quote unquote talented.
And like the one that I feel a little bit like that, I still have mixed feelings about is acrylic pour.
Mm-hmm.
Like, is it a craft?
Right.
Like like I feel like there's some people out there who are doing it really well.
Yeah.
Like they push it, but some people
Mm-hmm.
just stay at acrylic pour, and it's a very basic artwork. Like cool
Yeah.
background, dude, but they call themselves artists or like just started like oh,
Yeah.
and it's like you need more development in your
Yeah.
craft.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is cool, but like I'm like you're not an artist yet. You just
Right.
it's the trend that's going on right now. You know, like
Right, right. What is the techniques that you're bringing to it? How are you learning the medium? Yeah, absolutely. I think that I think I agree with that because I feel that's where I am with my resin now is where I'm able, like people will contact me and ask me tips about resin. And because I'm able to give them advice, I'm like, okay, clearly I know some things, or people are like able to see the way that I've like moved beyond, oh, here's the first time I'm mixing these two things and then seeing what can stick inside of it. And now I know the difference between mica powders, alcohol inks. I've had things flash cure. I know how to use like even all behind me you see like the glitters. I know like patterns. So yeah. I can see that definitely when you're it's like you're getting to that level when you learn new techniques and things to use within that medium.
and developing your own not even medium. It's just your like art form. You know,
Like
like
a
and
style.
story. You know, and I'm like okay, like, I can see that as an artist, but like even seeing it online sometimes right now. Maybe I'm just a hater too. Like, good job.
You could be. You could very well be.
I'm glad people are getting creative and
Right.
doing art, but like there's some people out here who have been painting, trying really hard for years, or deal with it as
Yeah.
a coping mechanism. That I don't like seeing it being like, what's the word? Commercialized,
Yeah. I was gonna say commodified, but it's like the same thing.
commodified.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah. 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 Absolutely. I feel that for sure.
it
Well,
makes me. Yeah,
yeah. With the younger kids too, they go in and they are trying a lot of new different things. But then you do have some like wealthier kids where all of a sudden you become very big at it because you have the means and the resources, and yeah, it's complex.
and because you could build a spinning thing that you could
Yeah.
just, or like the swinging ones. Like I don't even have like. Yes, I have a studio now, but like I think normally I would be like, I don't even have a studio to do that. Or
Yeah.
like most people can't, don't have the space because they're worried about rent. They can't pay another rent. Like
Ooh, absolutely. Well,
so
we
it
could get
makes
even deeper with that.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, thank you for playing the game. That was cool. I really like all the responses that you gave. So we're going to talk a little bit about news, but there's only one article that I really want to talk about, and it came out recently. It
Okay.
was an article in the Sun Times, and it was called "Why Are There So Few Librarians?" Did you see this article by chance?
I'm gonna look it up right now. Why are there so few librarians?
Yeah, why are there so few librarians? It says that there are 290,000 students in CPS. There's 513 schools, but CPS only has about 90 schools with librarians. So the article was really good because it was like interviewing a bunch of different librarians. It was talking about the disproportionate late uh I guess like spread out of librarians across the
Yeah.
city. How there's so many more less in the Black and Brown communities in Chicago. I don't know if the article stated this, but I know that many schools in the city that do have librarians, the funding for the librarian comes from like the neighborhood association or the LSC, like the friend, like so you'll have a school and then there's like a neighborhood association that's like friends of whatever the school is, and they raise the money for that. And so the funding for like librarian, and also this is why I thought it would be good to bring up in this podcast, is because they also do this for art teachers in certain communities as well. And so these different like what they call extracurriculars, library, art, music, all of those things are generally the first to go. And then the ones that these wealthier schools are able to afford because they have, fundraising nights and
Yeah.
all of that sort of stuff. So, what do you think of that?
It
Being a
seemed,
product of CPS too, right? Like, what
oh
are your
yeah,
thoughts on this?
boy, it goes back to like literacy, right? Right now is a big thing. I know I've
Yeah.
seen you talk about it in your story.
Yeah.
And something we're doing at Southwest Creative Studio, which is the community engagement side of my art studio with my friends Sina and Allison. Because I have Mena Arte and it's Southwest Creative is, just neighborhood stuff. We started a little library in our studio too. There's a nonprofit that gives out books in Pilsen.
Oh yeah, open books.
Open books, yeah. But yeah, that's something we're trying to, because we know that kids don't have access to books or even like books of color, if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
with kids of color. Yeah, absolutely.
Protagonists that are like relatable skin color.
Yeah, you know that there's more characters in children's books that are animals than there are humans of color.
Like it's more important to like the publishers that or like
They're
or
just
that's the
not
standard.
publishing those stories. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
just the standard. Yeah, that's absolutely what it is. It is very, very sad to see that.
I think it kind of sucks that like CPS, we're like the third biggest education system in the country, right?
Yeah, yeah,
That we still can't find ways to fund these extracurricular, which I think they're more essential than that.
yeah,
I guess, yeah, I get it, academics, right?
yeah.
But there's this weird structure of math, reading. I get it. But you just need to incorporate like reading books,
Yeah.
everything else. I don't know. It pisses me off that we have to choose to like fund it or not, and then we have to do extra. It should just be part of it.
Yep.
And these schools that have the time because they're not worried about survival, and they have parents that don't have to go to work while the kids take care of themselves after school. That they have time to fund stuff like this, which is cool, like good for them. But it just pisses me off that like we don't have the time to do that. Doesn't mean we don't care about our kids.
Which is how people interpret it, and it's a complete misinterpretation. Yeah.
And then the kids don't care about
Yeah.
reading
Yeah.
just because they're not even like exposed to it to begin with. You know?
Right.
Like,
Yeah. I remember doing research in grad school and people having conversations about how low income areas, they don't read, they don't have books and da da da. And I'm like, that's not true that they don't read. There's so many people who read in low income areas. You go into schools in low income neighborhoods and you are going to find lots of kids who love reading. Okay.
Yeah.
You will find them. The problem is books are very expensive and people don't necessarily have the funds to purchase books to make a home library. That's why, like, even with the books and backpacks that we have going on that you've been part of with us, which we're so grateful for. But with that, part of the goal is to get books into people's homes for free. I want you to build a home library for your kid. Like part of literacy, I had this conversation with my cousin because her daughter was struggling to read. And I was like, you need to obviously, you have her in classes, you have her getting tutored, but how are you creating a literate world around her? Where are your books in the house? She's like, oh, they're here in this cabinet, but they were closed off. And I said, pull them out. Books need to be accessible. They need to be open. They need to be part of your everyday life. That's how it should be. And a lot of people don't know that. Why? Because reading is a leisurely activity for the people who have time for leisure, right? But it's so we need to bring that to certain communities. And then when you're in the schools and you don't have a librarian, you don't know how to pick a book. You don't know, like you have this idea that reading is not for you. It's just a really horrible cycle of misinformation, of lack of access, but it boils down to people thinking that like low income people don't want books. It's just not true. When I was in fifth grade, I used to volunteer in the library, like at my school.
Okay.
That's how I spent my recess, which you can see why I'm such a nerd about books. But I learned like the Dewey Decimal System there.
that's what I was gonna say. I remember the Dewey Decimal, like how to find it, your books and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and I learned that, and it really created a love of books with me because I had this woman, this librarian, that I could turn to and say, like, can you give me a book on this? Can you show me a book on that? Or I was literally just becoming familiar and intimate with books while I was in that space. You know, kids in these other schools, they're losing that opportunity to get comfortable and familiar with books. The Chicago Public Library is fantastic, but I'll be the first to admit that I owe them a lot of money because I keep forgetting to return books. So it's not just about borrowing the books, it's also, do you have access to books within your own home that you can constantly reference, that you can keep, you know, all of that.
Yes. So for me, like, I understand that now more, but it was a little hard to understand growing up because I went to grammar school. I actually went to a very good, primarily white school.
Okay.
I went to John C. Dorr. It's in on the other side of Midway, 63rd and Narragansett.
Okay.
It's like city workers, firemen, police. You know,
Okay.
a lot of that.
Yeah. People think that the South Side is like a mainly predominantly black neighborhood, but they don't realize that if you go really far south, you end up getting in a very, very white neighborhood.
Southwest, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Midway area, like the mid.
Right.
You just say Midway, you already know what kind of. It's like higher blue collar.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
But actually, it's that blue collar of like warehouse workers, you know, like not just police, like that. It's kind of like the same thing as Mexican, but they're like Polish, Irish,
Yeah.
European, you know. So sometimes it trips me out too because I grew up around those people, and like they're still kind of struggling in some way. They're just a little better because it's the color of their skin, you know.
Okay.
But I went to a good school, so I had a great librarian. We had two. So when you would go in there and it was like a big library full of books, they were so engaging
Yeah.
that I never really thought about it until I was in high school. And I went to Curie, and we still had a really good, like, accessible library. And I used to love being in there when I would cut and be a nerd.
Yeah.
But then going to the Chicago Public Library downtown, which was great to have the accessibility for it. But yeah, like renting it out and being responsible for them.
Yeah.
Or then going to like, what was it, Borders? And realizing like, oh, yeah, I can't own this. I'm in high school. I don't even have a job.
Yeah.
I can't build my library. It's cool coming here to read it. A lot of my friends, that's what we would do. We would go there and read.
Yeah.
And then leave it behind, you know?
Yeah.
But like if we can't even get kids books in their school during the school day, and even like in your library in your neighborhood, how do we expect like the literacy rate to go up? It's not accessible resources. So I'm understanding that, and then now I'm like, I don't know, it's just another thing that pisses me off about like not being in a wealthy neighborhood, because either you don't have the property taxes to help out the school, or you don't have the people that have time to care about providing other resources.
Right.
So I think it's a shame, and I think they're starting to pay attention to it more now. Like libraries.
Yeah.
But one thing that pisses me off is I see all these brand new libraries that have like 3D printing. They look all modern, like spaceships and shit.
Yeah.
But my library that I grew up on, super fucking small.
Yeah.
Like water coming down the fucking ceiling.
Yeah. Yeah.
I hear all this, how they're addressing it. CPS and the city
Yeah.
providing, I think Sundays now, right? Like they're open, libraries are open on Sundays. But my environment that I go in is a shitty old library. I actually don't even want to be sitting there, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
over here we get a lot of like stragglers that like to go in there just to kill time during the day. Like, you know, so this it's uncomfortable, you know? So I'm like, I can't even focus on like the books part because I'm so worried still about the bigger system thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
No, I absolutely feel it. When I used to teach on the South Side, the local library, because I thought it was important for me to get the kids connected to the local library as well. We had, and this is the case in a lot of schools, where we had a library space, and so we had books, but there was no one managing that space. And so you could even take the kids up there, but the system was all over the place. You couldn't really find the books you wanted. It was a mess. So I tried to connect the kids to the local library. And in that neighborhood, the local library was like more or less a trailer park. Like it was a trailer that the books were in. And I was like, who wants to feel welcome in this space? You know, whereas you go to like
Yeah.
the Bucktown Wicker Park Library and it's got these like, there's quiet rooms where you could go in and study, and there's, it's just a completely different environment in these two different spaces because of the resources of the community.
Yeah, and like it's fucking Chicago. We could allocate money for anything
Oh yeah.
wherever we want. Just make it even for everybody. Just make it even, and
Yeah.
you'll see these kids shine.
Yeah.
Like very smart kids. Their imagination starts running. They start.
Yep.
That's what I liked about books was the visuals that I would create in my own head. Right, like the story, and like these kids don't even get that to begin. They don't get to be kids like that.
No, they don't get to be kids like that. Or how many teachers will tell them like, no, a comic book isn't really a book. For my shop, I made stickers that say comic books are books, because I'm like, this is ridiculous. Comic books are books, and if your kid is reading, why are you taking this opportunity away from a child to read? That my mission used to be get kids connected to local libraries, and now my personal mission is get families to build libraries in their home.
Yes.
So that's why I with the stuff we do with Somos Arte, I really like giving the books out through that event. But I was telling the girls the other day, I had a dream, because I think, we have an art box in Logan Square at the Comfort Station.
Okay. Yeah.
And so the artist, Mr. Barbudos, Armando Rios, made that box and decorated it. And, but we purchased, because you can purchase the boxes from the reader. And Melanie led that crusade and purchased the box. Armando decorated it, and now it's up in Logan Square. And so I was thinking about that box, and I was like, how dope would it be to make those little libraries around the city, right? And I know there's little libraries in different spots too, but I'm like,
oh yeah,
there's
the
none.
Little house thingies, right?
Yeah, they have them like little houses, but those are more like people have them on their inner streets, the ones I've seen.
Yes,
I'm sure there's ones that aren't like this, but they're on like side streets. It's like neighborhood stuff like that. But I'm like, why don't we have things like that at parks? Why don't we have things like that? Like, I kind of want to reach out to the reader and be like, how did you get your boxes on street corners? So how can I really had this dream that it was like that I had artists decorating those boxes, and they were La Maestra little libraries. And I was like putting the libraries all around the city, and that I was like, managing them and putting books and stuff like that. I'm like, I think I might make that a reality, because I want people to take books. I want you to have it, keep it. And then maybe when you're done, you're like, okay, I'll put it here, but there's no penalty,
But also, like, the setting, like you said, like, why just on the street corner? Are you going to sit down on the street corner and, like, quickly skim through it to see if you like it? Like, what if you have it in a place where you could, if it's at the park? Some kids like to play sports. I grew up playing sports, but there was times where, like, I don't want to fucking do this shit. I just want to, like, get lost in drawing.
Right.
I could still be around here, but I could be the weirdo sitting down drawing.
Yeah.
Or it could be the weirdo sitting down reading. Like weirdo. I think,
Weirdo's
like,
a fun word.
no, yeah. But, like, if they're in a space where you could, like, sit down and enjoy it, that it's more inviting.
Yeah. And it's purposeful. It's intentional. Yeah.
Yeah, instead of kind of like, I feel like even those little boxes, like in the neighborhoods, a lot of people go and take the books they don't want.
Yeah.
It's not curated. It's not curated. Right.
And that was what I thought of too, where it's like, I don't want people to be like, I'm done. I don't want this book. It's junky. Don't give us junky books. I want you to pass on a book that you absolutely loved, and you want to make sure someone else also loves it. That's a different story.
Don't be disrespectful. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
To me, it's like, don't give me shit you don't want. I'm not here to collect shit like that. Like, also, like, these kids are worth more than shit you don't want.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, I almost find it, like, insulting,
It can be insulting, yeah. It's the donation of the crappy stuff as opposed to, like, being intentional with what you give,
you throw it out, like.
Yeah, it's not a dumpster service. All right, well, let's take a little break, and then we get back. We're going to talk more about you, your art, your background, all of that wonderful stuff. So, Mario, let's get back to talking a little bit more about you. You have such an interesting journey of your, even coming to the United States and your artwork and the way that it's all connected to who you are and your identity. So I want to talk a little bit about that. I don't want to butcher where you were born in Mexico because that's a tough city. Can
Oh
you tell?
yeah.
Yeah, tell me what the name is. How do you pronounce that?
So I was born in Mesquitic.
Oh, okay, okay.
Mesquitic, and then obviously indigenous.
Mm-hmm.
So from what I know, I was born there, and then I was brought here when I was 2 years old.
Okay.
Typical, like across the border, across the mountains, across the river, hiding in cars with your parents, all that shit. To California.
Mm-hmm.
Then from California to here, Chicago. But yeah, I was born in Mesquitic, which is Jalisco, out in like the mountains, very rural, like
Okay.
no future kind of place, you know?
Mm-hmm. And then you grew up primarily on the southwest side of Chicago, Chicago Lawn, Gage Park. And now you own an art studio in Gage Park, right?
Chicago Lawn, which is right next
Oh,
to
Chicago
Chicago.
Lawn. Okay, okay. So what has that journey been like to even getting your studio and like having it be in a neighborhood that you're very familiar with, right?
Yeah, so I, ne- I guess I dreamed about having this studio, but never thought it would be so intentional, you know?
Okay.
I always wanted like a warehouse studio out in the
Mm-hmm.
middle of nowhere. Nobody bother me. No, you don't even know it's a studio.
Yeah.
But I got like an opportunity through Greater Southwest Development Company, which does a lot of work on 63rd Street, which is Chicago Lawn, a little bit at Gage Park. And then they came to me with an opportunity to open up my studio and get my business lessons going.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was, and when that finally came to me, I was like, where do I go? Do I go to more commercial area where my studio could thrive and survive more? Or do I go back to where I grew up and provide that service that no one's used to it? Not even a service, just like, it's a gallery studio too, even though I haven't done any shows because I don't want to deal with people.
Yeah.
But I'm like, do I go somewhere else? Because, right, like, do I go to Pilsen? No, I don't want to go to, I love Pilsen, but I don't want to go over there.
Right.
Do I go to, over here for me, it's Pulaski, it's the West Lawn, it's the nicer side.
Mm-hmm.
Or do I go where I grew up, where I could never imagine ever having a gallery here? I'm like, let me do that shit. Let me do it
Yeah.
for the people. Let me trip out some residents of this area, like. So that whole journey from, like, coming from the whole migrant story, right?
Yeah.
It's like I think for my parents, people around me, my family, that was probably something really cool. Like, oh, this guy is somewhat legit. He has a commercial space as his studio.
Yeah.
I felt like, growing up with Latino parents, they always want you to have a financially stable job.
Mm-hmm.
Or they have this dream of you being a doctor, a teacher, a lawyer, like this other job that's not what they're doing. And I was raised through that, right? Like, my mom telling me, like, art's not worth it. You need to find something else, like butchering my dreams. But now having that, I feel like I've changed their perspective and how they respect art.
Yeah.
But also the neighborhood. They're not used to anything like this. So it feels really great to provide this safe space for
Yeah.
the community where you don't have to buy anything. Over here, I don't know how it is in other neighborhoods. You can't loiter around over here. You get in trouble. If you come into a store and you're not buying anything, you get hassled. Like,
Wow.
what are you doing here?
Yeah.
So I wanted to provide a space where none of that exists.
Where people could just be in that space.
Yeah, like,
Yeah.
dude, this is an art studio. I just paint here. Pretty cool. If I have the time, you want to sit down and paint, I got some supplies. So yeah, it feels great to come from that, right? Like, I came from a family where we had dirt floors.
Yeah.
Like, my parents telling me, like, no actual floor. Like,
Yeah.
it's the dirt.
Yeah.
To having something like this, I felt very grateful. And I just hope I make my parents proud that they migrated over here for a better life, right? We all do, right? Like, all Latinos, even, like, white people, that
Right.
come from, like, just generations further down, and now
Yeah,
they
yeah,
think
yeah.
they're full American. But, like, your ancestors weren't born here.
Right. You're literally not native. Yeah.
Yeah, like okay. You're fucking dumb. I'm not even gonna engage in correcting you. But yeah, it feels good. Like I'm able to like tangibly give them back something,
Yeah.
for something they could tell their friends, other family members, your tia in Mexico, like, oh, he opened his studio.
Yeah.
And then everybody finds out over there because
Yeah.
they're on the chisme.
On the WhatsApp.
Yeah, and the WhatsApp. Yeah, right. Before it used to be the calling cards.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, now you're all on WhatsApp. Well, you talk so much about the way that you have a connection between mental health and the art that you create. And everything that you're saying now really just it shows the ways that you are intentional about creating safe spaces with art, like even just having the studio and letting it be somewhere that people can just exist with just appreciating art, and they're not being hassled to buy things. It's not that you have to open up your wallet. Obviously, we want art to be sustainable, and so it'd be lovely if people were able to purchase it more. But it's like how you're giving people an appreciation for it, and then talking about the ways that it can then make a connection to mental health. When you came in and spoke to my students in the ASM class, they talked about that for the whole remainder of the semester, the big, beautiful mural that you did that was all about mental health. So because this is a podcast and I can show it on Instagram, but describe that mural that you made, because it was one of your first ones, I believe, right?
Yes.
Yeah, describe that and then talk about like the background behind it and the connection to mental health and all of that beautiful, beautiful stuff.
So it was pretty funny. I'm at my office in my house in the attic, and it's in the backyard. I'm literally looking at it right now.
You can see the mural from your house. Yeah, I remember you saying that. Yeah. So you can now
cool.
look at it and describe it.
Yeah, like I'm like, okay, I can't even pull it up. And the cool part is that I could see like the depressing side of it. So yeah, you know what, like all this social unrest was happening, everything was going on. I was going through all my personal shit. I was very depressed still. I feel like I've led a life of depression. Also, like I got older and I learned how to better cope.
Yeah.
But I think at that moment, seeing the city hurting, seeing the world hurting, seeing people hurting, reminded of how I feel in them. So I was like, I use art to heal, so let me give a gift to the community or a public artwork. Instead of just doing a beautification project, I wanted to tell a story. And what better way to tell a story than to tell my own finally? I feel like I've always been beating around the bush that I'm like depressed, like trying to hide it. Behind this like fabulous images, there's a person who thinks too much. So, and instead of being like having this positive outtake on mental health, I wanted to share the darker side because I wanted people to relate directly.
Yeah.
So I painted this person. What is it? Like the anatomy of a person, like if you were sliced
Okay.
in half, because I didn't want it to focus on skin color or anything. Mental health is something that we all deal with. So I just wanted to create a human, like bones and organs. And there's another person inside of his brain kneeling down, like ashamed, depressed, beat down.
Yeah.
Like he's overthinking. And that's how you feel when you feel down. I feel like there's somebody crouched down.
Yeah.
Overthinking, over and crying, feeling left alone. So I painted this like dark, not scary, but I think anatomy, like just being. And I guess this is a representation of myself.
Okay.
And he's painting the mural, and it's his arm with the paintbrush. It's funny because I actually have a paintbrush too. But he's painting the mural to deal with mental health. But as he's painting it, the dark consciousness background turns into like love and cosmic colors, really beautiful. And then you have a garden growing with vegetation with a motherly figure. Like I kind of went for like an indigenous, black, Latina, Afro features. I didn't want to have like white colonial art. I feel like
Yeah.
everything features a white person complexion.
Yeah.
Representing Mother Earth, and she's like super beautiful and bright. But I wanted to show the balance of both things, the dark and the positive. I feel like that's what mental health is, or mental health is us regulating these chemical imbalances, right?
Yeah.
We're dynamic creatures,
Mm-hmm.
so like not every yeah, shit could be fucked up and shit could be good, but it's not always that way. It's always a managing of both.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to share that, and I felt it build up inside of me, and I felt it build up in the world. So that was a personal project. I had all that was funded personally by my project manager Sina, and I. But it ended up being, I think, like not most famous, but most recognizable project so far
Okay.
because I was able to tell a true story, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
That everybody could relate to.
Right.
That mural helped me go to therapy. That was my catalyst. I also feel like I did it. Like people don't know, I did it to hold myself accountable to go. Because up to there, I had been beating around the bush about going to mental health facility or just getting therapy, getting
Yeah.
help. And if I'm out here fucking, I did it to like push myself and call
Yeah.
myself out. If I'm out
Yeah.
here advocating for it, I painted a fucking mural that's on the news and all this shit.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't fucking practice it. Who the
Yeah.
fuck am I?
Right.
False ass person.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta
So
walk the walk, right? It's like.
so it also helped me because I think I've been wanting to for so long to take that leap of asking for help, and I wasn't. I was still like practicing avoidance. Or I was using my art as a crutch.
Yeah.
You know, that I finally took that leap with it, and then that actually like changed my life.
Yeah.
I started learning how to cope with things I can't control. You know,
Yeah.
and it made me see mental health in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, it's your work is very symbolic in general. Like your work, first of all, your work is beautiful. So it's visually beautiful when you just look at it. It makes you feel something, and I think most of the time, unless you're doing your like skull work, but when you're doing the like, even with the skull work, but like you feel this like, wow, these colors, the way they blend, like it really evokes this feeling of like joy for me. But I think that this piece evoked the story. Like I see exactly what you're saying because I can look at the coneflowers and know that you've talked about how they're like native to the Midwest, I believe. And so you're telling the story of migration with that, the butterflies, obviously, the mural that you did in Wright College, like every single piece of that was so symbolic and intentional. But the story through this mental health piece was much more of a like human personal story, whereas the other one is symbolic and that's like a story of people as a whole. This was your story, but one that so many people can relate to also.
Yeah, and it was just me opening up my heart straight up,
Yeah.
opening up the door to let people in. And the quality of the feedback from people was so much different than all these other cool murals. It was very touching, you know?
Yeah.
People
Yeah,
were
that was like what made
vulnerable.
people feel. Yes, yes. You bring that out in a lot of people. And I think it encouraged with the students that I had, you know, this is the whole point of even teaching any of the classes that I do, and I know you do with ASM too. Like you want the kids to feel comfortable with expressing themselves. You want them to feel okay with being vulnerable, because they're learning that age where like mental health is important and we need to work through challenges and your angsty teens. And so how do you work through that?
Yeah.
So when you are creating this space and this piece that tells them like it is okay to not feel okay and this is one way I manage it, what do you do? And
Yeah.
then they start talking about those things and you're like, yes, this is the work, this is it, this is how we create a better society. You know, that's how I feel.
Yeah. Just to be like, it's okay if you feel like shit.
Mm-hmm.
Just, it's okay. You could either paint or you could go for a walk. You could go to the, I don't know, park, play a
Yeah.
sport,
You just got to
work
find your
out.
thing. Yeah. When I was teaching, I really felt like the unit that was almost always hit so hard with my kids, and I was the worst at teaching it. I will
Okay.
adamantly admit this. I was the worst at teaching poetry because I am not very well versed in like stanzas and lines and this type of thing, and I don't know all of that stuff. So from a technical standpoint, I'm not good at teaching poetry. But my kids loved it because it gave them a safe space to be vulnerable. And those notebooks were filled with, the kids are writing poems, they're writing. They got all these emotions. And then of course, because there's the connection, I always made sure like rap is poetry. Everybody can feel
Yes.
comfortable in that space to write. And so anytime that I gave them the opportunity to express themselves like that, forget it. They loved it. And I was always big on like, I don't need to see it, but here's an opportunity for you to, no pencils were down. People were just writing,
Yeah.
they were just into it. So it
And
was
you
a good
tied
way
it,
to connect it too, the mental health and all of that.
and you tied it into rap, some like pop culture, something they could relate to or listen to. So that's another good way of
Yep.
like, but right, because how many people would tell you if unless you're black or brown or really understand rap or hip hop, how many of those people would tell you that that is poetry? Not many people would.
Oh
Right?
yeah. I mean, it's the same with the comic book conversation,
Exactly.
Yeah, that it's not a book, this is not poetry, no, it is all poetry, absolutely. So you've been an instructor now with Yolocalli, you talked about that. Is that who you said you're taking an LA mural trip? That's with Yolocalli also?
Oh
What's
yeah.
that trip? What is that going to be?
So I'm really excited. It's next week Friday, so like 4 or 5 days.
Mm,
So yeah, Yolocalli hired me. Thanks to Hanan, she's one of the directors.
okay.
She's awesome. I've known her for a few years too. We have mutual friends.
Hmm.
But yeah, so I got hired as a street art instructor
Okay.
there, which is pretty cool. But they had an opportunity to come up for. So this year is their 25th year anniversary of Yolocalli existing. So
Wow.
they're doing these certain projects, 25 projects all year, and this is one of them.
Hmm.
So they managed to link up with a studio and another artist. His name is actually Mario too.
Hmm.
That they had some sort of program like that, like youth mentorship,
Okay.
art mentorship out there. They linked up, and for their they talked about like going out there and doing a mural.
Hmm.
The guy figured it out and got us a wall. So we're gonna go out there. So I'm gonna be linked up. It's me, the street art instructor, with a
Hmm.
graffiti instructor,
Wow.
and we came up with the design. And we're taking 4 kids from our two and two from each program
Mm-hmm.
to do a mural over there. And I'm very excited to go paint
Yeah.
in LA because it's fucking LA, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Do you know what neighborhood you'll be in?
I forgot.
You
I
gotta come back to me on
forgot.
that. I gotta find out where that is.
Yeah, like I totally forgot. It's so big out there. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
but yeah, we get to do that. And last year I went to LA for the first time on my own. I went to
Mm-hmm.
like was it Venice Beach to paint
Okay.
because I didn't know anybody out there.
Yeah.
But I told myself that I wanted to go back to do a mural if I ever come back first. Like I still want to come and hang out,
Yeah.
but I want to do a. That's my life goals right now. Everything has to do with art. If I go anywhere, I
Mm-hmm.
need to get down. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, they just asked me, and I thought it was awesome. And I told them the story how I like try to manifest it. I told myself last
Yeah.
year, and they're like, "Dude, you totally did it."
That's awesome.
Yeah, but we're gonna
Man.
go paint a mural, and it's
Mm-hmm.
gonna be on like farm work, the
Mm-hmm.
sun. We're gonna try to connect it to like Chicano art, you know.
Beautiful. Yeah.
So yeah, it's cool. We're gonna go out there, paint a mural with the
Mm-hmm.
kids. I think all the kids that are going is gonna be their first time ever being on an airplane.
Wow. That's huge. What a
Yeah.
beautiful opportunity. What have you found when it comes to like mentoring the kids? Because they're teens, right? And you and
Mm-hmm.
I had conversations about education, right? Then this
Mm-hmm.
podcast is about education too. What conversations do you have with them about being an artist, the education world? Because there are some artists who go to art school, and
Mm-hmm.
then there's artists like you, like who are self-taught artists. And you also share that some of the DACA stuff like affected your ability for education as well. What's
Mm-hmm.
the conversation you have with the kids about education and art?
I just tell them I just graduated from high school. I didn't go to college. I
Hmm.
figured it out by myself by trial and error.
Hmm.
And I am here because I used to suck at painting and now I'm better at
Hmm.
it. And I messed up a whole bunch of times because they're always judging their work and themselves
Hmm.
that they're not good. I'm like, I
Yeah.
did the same thing as you did, and I didn't have to have a higher education. I would love for you to have a higher education.
Mm.
But if you choose a craft, focus and concentrate, and you could be here. I'm like, I'm here right now with you.
You're right.
And if you look at my resume, or even my resume that I turned into ASM, from an educator point of view, it's pretty weak, like super weak. But I have all this other experience,
Right.
and I managed to make it here. And then I'll tell them how I'm DACA, how my whole little story, and they're just mind blown. I'm like, you can literally do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to follow the structure or thing. I would love for you to follow it. So it feels cool telling that story.
Yeah.
And then you know what I do? Like when they can't paint something, I sit down right next to them and I show them one on one. And then I get very like into this attitude, like I don't care. I'll do a coneflower. I'll be like, you just do this. I'm like, you figure it out. Don't even fucking. I don't even really care right
Yeah.
now. And then they're like mind blown, and I'm like, it's that easy,
Yeah.
you know. But I'm just
Yeah.
trying to inspire them in a certain different way because I think, you know what, I guess they're high school kids. It's trying to prepare them for college. That's the whole thing that they have in their mind. I'm like,
Right.
well, you could prepare to fucking paint forever, you know?
Right. Yeah. Yeah,
So
like
it's
not
cool.
being attached to the outcome of it all with when it comes to art is really cool too, to give them the opportunity to make mistakes and like trial and error and all of that.
Yeah, and then I tell them there's like musicians who do that. There's this whole other world, but it's still going to take a lot of dedication, a
Yeah.
lot of work ethic, and it's
Yeah.
harder because you have to hold yourself accountable.
Yes. Yes.
But I still tell them that it doesn't mean you get free time to fuck around. Yes, you do.
Right.
But there still needs to be artist development, professional development
Right.
happening. But I tell them that there is that option. You don't need to be a lawyer. You don't need to be like whatever all these other things, or whatever your parent wants you to be. You could be an
Yeah.
artist. It's just gonna take. Just do it. Like
Yeah.
get into it.
Yeah. I think there's so much conversation about the right path, right? Like that you need to go from here to here to here. And sometimes it's even going to school is like you're saying a thing to make your parents happy. And that doesn't necessarily need to be the case. And there's challenges on both ends. That is the problem, is that people will say, well, if you don't go to school, it's going to be really hard to do things, that way. But it's also really hard when you're going to school. Like the amount of student loan debt that people are saddled with is ridiculous. And there's artists who already know what their style is going to be. They already know how to train themselves on certain techniques with the access of YouTube these days and mentorship. Like we can,
Yes.
we talk about that a little bit too, but like you don't necessarily need this path of art school. It can be good for certain people because maybe you're a little bit undecided. Maybe you want to explore multiple mediums. That's fine and understandable. But yeah, understanding that there's nuances and there's challenges and benefits to both ends of that spectrum. Absolutely. I'm glad you're sharing that with those kids.
Yeah. So just let them know that like you can still do whatever you want. Yes, go to school. Please, at least go to community college. I would have loved to. I tell them like, even where I'm at, I would have loved to. It would have helped me, you know. But also you could be whoever you want, and I don't care what that is. You want to be a dancer, you want to just fucking do it. I just promote that. Just you tell me about it, but show me what you're working on.
Right.
Or next time I see you, I'm gonna follow up with you. You know,
Yeah.
just to
that's
like
really
be like push you like hey, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I love those kids.
So you were like, okay, I'm gonna continue to do this. I want to be an instructor.
Yeah, but
But you never wanted to be an art teacher. That wasn't a thing you wanted to do, huh?
I don't want to be a teacher. I don't want to be a teacher. I guess I think there is a difference between
Oh, totally.
teacher and instructor.
Yes. I'm finding that balance now. I've actually talked about this recently at an ASM group that we did, because obviously I teach the class. Nico and I teach the class right now for our project with our kids, and he is the complete opposite end of a teacher, and I am
Yes.
such a teacher. And there's benefits to both, right? Like I have structure for the class, so like I looked at it and I made a schedule, and I was like, we're gonna do this every, when they first walk in. This is when break time is. This is that, and I
Yeah.
have that structure. But he also allows them to just have fun, to sit and relax. And something that because I wasn't kind of born and raised as an artist, and as a teacher, I'm like, we got to do this, we got to do that. There has to be a goal, there has to be an end result, there has to be something. If the kids are sitting for too long, I start to feel anxious, right?
Yeah.
And he's like, no, the kids can sit. They literally want to sit and draw. Let them sit and draw. And so an instructor and ASM, you're allowed to do that, to find peace in those down moments. And my teacher trauma brain is constantly trying to get them to do stuff. There's totally a difference.
Yeah, and so that's what I told Hanan from Yolocalli when she asked. I'm like, yo, and I was under the impression it was more like that. And I was like, yo, to be transparent, I ain't no teacher. I don't want to be a teacher. And she's like, I don't care. Like you're, like I like your art. You'll figure it out. And now I love it because I allow all these other things. Studio time. Like you said, we have the agenda, the daily agenda, and it's a structure every day, so they know what's coming up, right? Because I think kids like that, right?
Yeah, they need it. They need structure. Yeah, it helps.
But within that structure, I allow them 2 hours studio time every day, which is yes, work on their work, but also get your snacks. Sometimes we have a playlist that we all contribute to, but sometimes I bring a projector and we do music videos. Like literally, we're listening and watching music videos while we're painting.
Yeah.
But it's to bring that studio environment into their life.
Yeah.
That where you have a safe space where you could be goofy.
Yeah.
You could be quiet. You could be loud, as long as you're working.
Yeah.
Like I just expect at the end, and ask for help, and we laugh. Or you're allowed to lounge.
Yeah. No, that is really beautiful. And I had to learn that through my last class, which I taught was a make lab. And so we were learning the different tools and resources. We had a 3D printer, a laser cutter, all of that stuff. And I would teach the kids some sort of skill, and then they were to work on whatever their final project was. I had one kid in there who basically all but refused to touch any of the machines. He was just like not about it. But what he wanted to do every single day was draw. He came in every single day, put his headphones in, and would draw. And it reminded me of the kids when I was teaching that like were adamant about not doing any of the assignments, but I could get them to read because I picked the right type of book.
Yeah.
And so I went to him at one point because he was just drawing on paper. And I was like, we use wood planks a lot in this class. Like we would use it to do vinyl cutting. We'd use it to do other stuff. And I was like, draw on the wood plank. So he started drawing on, I think I have it right behind me. No, I don't have this one with me. But he drew, he would draw on the wood planks. And, I'm like, maybe he doesn't have time or space, or maybe his family doesn't allow him to draw at home. And by sitting here, this X amount of hours that we have in the class, he's getting the time to do that. So I'm giving him some sort of gift, and it's okay. It's okay to allow that space.
Yeah, it's the studio space. That's what a studio. I like the name of the word studio space, the term, because it's a room with infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
And what I'm trying to share with the kids is like what me and my friends do. I'm pretty sure you and your friends, or a lot of creators, you just hang out sometimes and do art, right?
Yeah.
We're just doing the same thing, We're just probably like not smoking weed or drinking beer, But like I want them to like, it's a hangout.
It's a hangout, yeah.
Because in high school with my friends on the Southwest side, we didn't have a public space where to go and do that.
Yeah.
We didn't have, or the cops would come and harass us, or the gangbangers would harass us. So we never had that space to, if we were lounging, what are you guys doing here?
Right.
Drinking iced teas, eating hot Cheetos, and fucking drawing, literally.
You're a criminal.
Criminalizing my, exactly, there you go. So I want to create that space by being like, you can hang out. Look, just fucking paint, draw. You don't want to do exactly the assignment that I'm telling you to do. Show me what you want to do.
Yeah.
And just trying to foster a creative, holy space, And I love that about ASM. And then even more Yolocalli, because even on Fridays, the last day of session every week, we do, my friend, she's a therapist. We do meditation for 2 hours. That's how we start out. I'm like, bring your sweatpants. A lot of them bring their Crocs.
Yeah. Love
like
it.
they're all super loungy, and we start off our day with like 2 hours of meditation, super comfortable in the studio, and then we chill out for the rest of the day and paint whatever we want. That's our like decompressing
Yeah.
at the end of the week. So I love that about instructing, that I could to be a little bit more radical because I don't have to adhere to like CPS
Right. Yeah.
standards. I like that. So I do want to
There's
continue
free.
that. Yeah, but I think for now I'm only gonna do it with Yolocalli only.
Okay. Yeah. No, that's a good partnership.
My instructors embrace who I am, and I don't feel like I'm answering to someone looming over me.
Yeah. No,
Um,
absolutely. I definitely feel that.
so I can't wait to continue.
Yeah, that's beautiful. And you do a lot of work with community orgs in general.
Yeah.
Why, what do you think that is that you feel such a connection? Like that's how we met, right? We met because of you doing work with Paint the City, and then you started doing some stuff with Somos Arte. You are a person who says, like, if it's about community, you always say yes.
Yeah.
Why is that? Why you like that?
Well, like it's really hard to do it on your own. I can, but it's really hard. And then like it's just like hanging out with people who share the same values and like goals,
Yeah.
and it's easier if we do it together. But also like I've worked with other organizations, but along the way I'm starting to understand where I fit, and I feel comfortable with the people. So like yeah, Yolocalli is another new one that like I feel like I belong.
Yeah.
You know, I could do not so much. It sounds crazy, like saying whatever I want. Like I'm doing something crazy. I'm not.
You're not. Yeah. Yeah.
But that autonomy within our mutual goal, right? We have a mutual goal together, but within there we have autonomy. We give each other autonomy and respect
Yeah.
without being told what to do, and I love that. Anybody who could give me that space to give the kids that space,
Right. Yeah.
it that means so much more than like the content.
Yeah, it's a beautiful cycle and circle of embracing art and education and mentorship and all of that.
And I'm not forcing something. I'm not following
Yeah.
an outline, a predetermined outline, or like that's probably coming from some white person or something. You know?
Yeah. Yeah. So what do you foresee yourself with your art career, down the line? Like even the first time that we met, it's grown so much. I feel like you were when you did quit your job and decided that you wanted to be a full-time artist. And now you're just like so busy with the stuff that you do. What's next level?
Yeah.
What's next step for you?
So like I guess like a new dream. I want to go national. I don't want to restrict myself to Chicago. I
Yeah.
think we have the Chicago mentality where like we're always repping neighborhoods. It's so cool. We love ourselves in Chicago and we're so supported, but we're also very like, well, I'm from over here.
Yeah.
I'm from over here, which is cool. We just like to rep our shit, right? But I almost want to just be like, I'm from Chicago, but I'm out here painting over in other city and all over. I just want to go national now. Like, move beyond local. I want to go national and just explore more. I want to learn. I want to get away from the bullshit of Chicago, you know? I just want to go national and help more kids.
Yeah.
And also, like, not just, like, kids from, like, neighborhoods where we don't have resources, but even wealthy places, there's a lot of kids that fall through the cracks,
Oh yeah.
mental health-wise.
Yes.
So, like, just go anywhere, you know?
Yeah. I like kind of bringing it full circle. I like how you said the reason that you made it just an anatomy for the mural that you did about mental health, because that is the thing that like there's different ways that it impacts different communities of color
Yes.
for sure, but mental health in general is something that literally affects everybody, and the way that our cultures are different is the way that they kind of treat those things. I really felt that out in LA when there were so many people who had addiction problems. And that was something that I didn't see in the same way in the communities of color, but I saw it in wealthy white communities. And whoa, I was.
Wherever you go to rural areas, there's a pandemic going that nobody talks
yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Like heroin
Yes.
and like crack and all that shit.
Oh, yeah.
As soon as you get from like metropolis, kind of like, city, big city. It's fucked up over there, man.
Yeah.
It's just as bad or worse, but just because they're white, you don't talk about it.
The pill culture in LA blew my mind. Absolutely blew my mind. And the way that it was talked about so openly.
Yes.
I was flabbergasted.
But like, yeah, I guess going back to it, like, mental health is universal, right? Man, I used to say this too much. Like, I wanted to die. I just don't want a fucking kid to say that. I don't give a fuck if you're got rich ass parents. I just don't want to hear that. You know, I don't want kids to tell themselves that. You know, so like, I want to stop that.
Yeah.
You know,
there's so many beautiful reasons to be alive. Like life can be really, really beautiful, and the way that you talk about art and the connection to it, I definitely resonate with that.
Yeah.
I think even like the events that we try to do with Somos Arte, we try to bring so much art because art is expression, it's beauty, and it makes like it. We are all deserving of being able to see these beautiful images and feel these beautiful feelings and the human experience, right?
Or create them for yourself, right? Like, I want to like that extra step. I want to teach people that. You know, I think it's very like punk. It's very underground, very subculture. Let's build a subculture.
Right.
You know, and I think from the 80s, the 90s, 2000s, there's always been like a subculture of like alternative music, hip hop, rap. Especially in the 90s, you know, we had like Marilyn Manson, Nine Inch Nails, and we had NWA, we had Tupac, we had Biggie. No, those are my influences, you know, like, if I just do it visually instead of like sonically.
Right, the way that they,
So when kids come up and they're so like anti everything, I'm like, what the fuck are we gonna do though? You know,
right.
like,
what are you gonna do with all that rage? Let's make something. Let's be purposeful and intentional. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for sharing all of that. I loved hearing about your journey and like the art that you create and just the way that you are inspiring teens at this moment. You know, you're an inspiring individual, but the way you're being very intentional about even that inspiration with teens is really, really beautiful. Ready to move on to some Q&A?
Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. It's a couple of them are pretty quick, and then the last one I think is going to get kind of deep. But someone asked one friend, and I'm going to add possibly a mentor that you are thankful for. So who's a friend or a mentor that you are really thankful for?
My friend Rocio Urbano. So when I was in high school, my senior year, but also with Sina Lauren, they had it wasn't like an official after school matters or anything like that. They just had their own kind of like Somos Arte. Somebody started their little. We would hang out after school to do art together, and we did art galleries. But this is after we graduated, right? Because you're like, what do we do after? If you were in ASM, if you were in anything, is there any way to continue for the kids that didn't have that platform? So yeah, we started doing galleries with them, 19, 20 years old for like 4 or 5 years. But she was my mentor, but we became friends. And now she's beautiful. Like my best friend. I've known her for 13 years. She changed my life. She gave me a platform for me to display my art. And I was so mad because I had to go to work. Be your typical migrant story, where I couldn't do what I wanted or go to college. Yeah. But she gave me that outlet and she encouraged my creativity, which straight up, like, she probably had one of the most important roles in my life and people don't know it. And sometimes I do tell her still. We talk about it. We just hung out 2 days ago.
Aww.
But, like, she, like, really... And she's so sweet and so nice that I was so angry that somebody cared so much.
Yeah.
To always see the better good and tell me about it. Or, like, in a different... Seeing everything in a different light, and I was always so negative. Yeah. So, yeah, Rocio Urbano. And she's an art teacher now. Art teacher in Pilsen.
Oh, good for her.
So, yeah, she's doing the whole thing. And she's a muralist, too.
Yeah.
So it's cool to have a peer. It's funny, I had a mentor, but ended up being my peer, and now we're friends, and now we're peers, and we encourage each other.
That's the best type of relationship. That's, like, reciprocal in that way.
And she used to
Yeah.
be the street art instructor at Yolocalli too. So
Oh
now I'm
wow.
following in her footsteps.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, so
I like that.
Rocio Urbano, Miss
Yeah,
Urbano.
follow her stuff too. Yeah.
Yeah.
When I came back to Chicago from grad school, I was like, I need to be really intentional about working within the community. And I was really nervous that I wasn't going to have friends when I came back because or like friends I could hang out with a lot because
Yeah.
my all of my friends from high school and college, or a majority of them, started getting married. They started doing like moving on with their lives in different sort of ways, and that's just not where I was at the time.
Yeah.
And then when I came back, I got connected to Marissa. So you know Marissa from
Yes.
Lolita Productions. Marissa was the one that ended up connecting me to be part of the Puerto Rican festival.
Mm-hmm.
When I started Somos Artes, she was supportive. Like, we've done so many different events together. And obviously it's built from there. Like, I met Brianna. Mel and I are so close now. My cousin Angie is now into the things that we do. But the catalyst for all of that was Marissa for me. So when I
Whoa.
saw this question, I thought of her immediately because she became my friend, and she and I talk about this too, where like we learn from each other in a
Yeah.
reciprocal mentor mentee type of relationship.
Yes.
We are able to like have tough conversations when things don't go right. We are able to like grow, and that's a relationship that I'm really thankful for, because I know that a lot of the stuff I do within the community is because we're both like-minded and we both push each other and we say yes to things and encourage and all of that. So I have that relation. Marissa's mine for me when I think of that.
Yeah, it's literally the same way, like the
Yeah.
same exact way. And it's cool how it went from mentor mentee to like mentorship for each other. Like it's now back and forth, and now we're friends.
Yeah.
Now we have like love for each other, like, and it's for the greater good, and it's just so cool. Like, I like that I didn't stay as a mentee.
Yeah, yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
The right type of mentor will respect you enough to like help bring you to a certain level, and they're open to learning as well. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And then
I
if
feel
you
that with teaching too.
equal.
Yeah. The next question: what's your number one song on Spotify right now?
Is there a way to check, or like
I don't
that I
know.
just
I was
or do
actually
I
looking
just
at
put?
my. I don't know. I think there is like a most played playlist.
Okay, let me just real quickly
Yeah.
so I
Let
don't
me see.
lie. So I don't lie. You know.
I have my top songs of 2021, but not my top songs of
Yeah.
2022 yet.
So I'll be honest. I love listening to the shit I like to listen a lot.
Yeah.
Old stuff, 80s. So it's funny. The first thing that pops up is Depeche Mode,
Oh,
and
I love Depeche Mode. Yeah.
it's Strange Love.
Okay.
It's just like super dancey 80. So I love Depeche Mode because as a male, they're expressing dancing and their feminine energy, I feel like.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're expressing love through music in a very like romanticizing way, and dancey and dramatic,
Cute.
like, so yeah, and it's 80s shit. So yeah, Strange Love by Depeche Mode. I fucking love them. They inspire so much music now in different genres. So
Yeah.
yeah, Strange Love, Depeche Mode. If you ever want to want to get me to go somewhere with you, put on some Depeche Mode.
Put on Depeche Mode.
And
I like that.
yeah,
It's not. I'm not very proud of my answer, but right now, well, people know I love Rosalia, and she's
okay.
Spaniard. She's a colonizer because she's colonizing Latin music. It's horrible.
I didn't
She's.
know. I just heard the name. I don't know anything but what you're telling me right now.
You've heard that before, or you're only
No,
hearing
no,
this
I
from
just
me
know
for the
that.
first time?
Yeah,
Oh
and
yeah.
I just don't pay attention to. Is she like more pop music?
Well, that's the thing. She does like Spanish, like, okay, so she wins a lot of awards for being like in the Latino categories. And then people get
Oh,
upset because she's from Spain, she's not technically Latino. But she sings in Spanish, and then she kind of like what people are considering is appropriating a lot of like Puerto Rican, Colombian, like that type of music, because she's doing reggaeton. She has a song with The Weeknd that's a bachata song.
okay.
Yeah, so there's a lot of nuance there, but I really like her music, and I know it's
So
horrible.
at the same time, at what point are we just influenced by beautiful music around us, right? Like,
Yes, and I've had a lot of thoughts on this, which is a whole nother podcast. Because yes, there's influence, and I've also thought like, well, the truth is she's singing in Spanish, right? So instead of calling it Latino, maybe they need to refer to it as Spanish because
yes,
they're not competing with music from Brazil that's in Portuguese, right? So there's
yeah,
that. But there's also the fact that like some of this music is its own genre. Like reggaeton is black Latino music from
yes,
Panama that was like the Spotify show Loud that's about the history of reggaeton really shows you how it is black Latinos who made reggaeton. But
hmm,
now the people who are most famous are white or trigueña mestizo Latinos who are most famous for it. So that is a problem. Also, there isn't like a lot of reciprocation when it comes to within the Latino music of people doing other you don't hear
mm,
Puerto Ricans singing norteños like you don't,
yeah,
right? There's nobody from I don't know Paraguay singing ranchero music, right?
yeah,
So there's things like that that aren't going back and forth. It's like hyping onto what's cool and what's popular, which is reggaeton. So
and it's funny,
complex.
yeah. No, yeah, it's super complex. So yeah, like I don't know how much of it is influence, and if you're influenced by that music, do it the right way. Maybe reach out to
Right.
somebody
Yeah.
that's your friend that's actually from there, or you want to collaborate.
Right.
How do you come in respectful, right?
Right. Right. And I don't know if
Like,
she's doing, and she's actually, Rosalia is getting popular in the United States in general because she partnered with Travis Scott on a
oh,
song. They did a song together, and then she's really cool with the Kardashians. So,
okay, yeah,
and now she's in a Skims ad. So this is more even pop culture with that stuff too. But I can't help it. I listen to her all the time. I'm sorry.
yeah. Like, we're not
I'm
perfect, right?
sorry. I'm
We're
not
not perfect.
perfect.
Yeah.
I'm not perfect yet. All right. So the last question is for you, I guess, more for art, right?
Okay.
What do you do when you're not feeling motivated to be creative?
I enjoy being a human,
Ooh, I like that answer.
right? Because nobody thinks we're humans. We do
Yeah.
cool ass shit, but
Ooh.
people forget that like I want to be fucking lazy. I want to lay down in my bed,
Yeah.
fucking scrolling Instagram for no fucking reason. You know, like I want to sit outside in my yard. I want to go out for a bike ride.
Yeah.
Sometimes I want to do laundry because I have the time.
Yeah.
Literally everything you do,
Like
right?
human stuff.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I gotta go shower too.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Okay.
domestic shit.
So you just like let go of the need to do something creative and just go do human, basic, boring, or chill things.
Yeah, like it bothers me that I'm not figuring it out right now, but sometimes I need to like step away. So, for I guess more intentionally than just being a human, going for a bike ride, going. I love Mother Nature. Usually, like if I feel some sort of way like that, I go for a 2 hour trail walk,
Okay.
and I literally unwind,
Yeah.
and then like the light bulb goes on before I come back
Yeah.
because I processed all these thoughts.
Yeah.
I'm ready to come back and like. So yeah, just I give myself I guess practice self-care.
Yeah.
And what's the word? I'm graceful to
Yeah.
myself.
Be great. Yeah. Give yourself grace. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah.
Literally. And there's no like it's not like the answer like this is what you need to do.
Right.
It's just I don't know. So just hit up a friend and like want to go sit at the lakefront, have a beer,
Yeah. That's
Want to go
beautiful.
to the movies, want to go get something to eat, like just I don't know, like to me it's lately I've been feeling like I want to escape from this shit. Not really escape, but like I just don't want to have expectations.
Yes. Yeah. Right now, I think with your schedule, you have a lot of expectations. You really do.
Like
Yeah.
I want to wake up and fucking have some coffee and like watch YouTube for a little
Yeah.
bit.
I read that
No.
artists need time to do nothing, right? Like artists need this
Yeah.
like downtime. And
Let me waste some
again,
time.
right, when with teaching, again, like our schedules are so crazy, we weren't allowed that and we weren't encouraged it. And I'm actually finding that even in my new job, sometimes I'm really hard on myself when I'm sitting and just like thinking about the thing that I need to do. But I'm like, I have to give myself grace also, because like I create curriculum, I direct curriculum. And I think sometimes my brain is telling me that I need to be sitting and typing. I need to be sitting and doing something. But sometimes it's not about that. It's like looking at these options, thinking about what's going to be the best, like, and having time to sit and just think and process a thought. That was not afforded to me from before.
Yeah, and it goes back to like survival and having time to like relax.
Yeah.
Or like, yeah, I'm worried about it, but let me worry about it later.
Right. Like put a pin in it.
Yeah.
Put a little pin in it.
Yeah.
Solve the problem later. Give yourself grace. That's the one. That is what I'm giving myself more. Is giving myself grace. I've been
like you said
term.
earlier, you don't like to go out to events. You just like to be home. Like
yes, I want to be
that.
home.
That.
Yes,
You know?
home is my favorite spot. Well, thank you so much for sharing all of this, Mario. Thank you for being here with me. Is there anything else that you want to share with people before we sign off?
Yeah, just fucking do something creative all the time. Just literally whatever it is, just do it. Don't doubt yourself. Even if you don't want to be a professional artist or whatever, just do stuff, you know.
Make time for creativity. That's on my vision board. That's like one thing I have for 2022.
Yeah.
Always make time for creativity.
And I don't know what I know my platform, my form of doing that. It could be in so many different ways. So make sure to share it with people so we stay open minded.
I love that.
Oh,
Thank you, Mario. Okay. Thank you for listening to It's All Trash, a podcast diving into the trash world of education. My name is Sabrina Alicea, and you can follow me at Es La Maestra on all socials. Our podcast is It's All Trash Pod on Twitter. Today we were joined by artist Mario Mena. You can find him on all socials at Mena Arte Chicago on IG. Help support the podcast by subscribing to our Patreon. You can get yourself an It's All Trash pin and a shout out on the podcast. See you next time. Trash.